At the age of 61, Jim Carrey gave what he called the final interview of his life. The man who had brought laughter to millions of people was finally ready to tell the truth. For decades, fans had suspected that behind his boundless energy was a dark side he had never revealed. And they were right. In 2025, Carrey disclosed that he had been taking Prozac since the 1980s to cope with what he described as a lingering despair that never truly went away. But even that was not the most shocking revelation. His confessions about his father's suicide attempts and his own emotional struggles will make you see every film he has ever appeared in from an entirely different perspective. Jim Carrey was born on January 17, 1962, in the small town of Newmarket, Ontario. The youngest of 4 children, he grew up in a cramped, noisy house where dreams constantly collided with the monthly struggle to make ends meet. His father, Percy, had once played the saxophone in a jazz band before becoming an accountant at Titan Wheels in Scarborough, earning just $8,000 a year. His mother, Kathleen, battled illness throughout much of his childhood and spent more time in bed than living a normal daily life. The family's surname had originally been Carr before Percy's ancestors anglicized it after immigrating to Canada. In that modest home, Jim watched his father's quiet disappointment grow deeper with each passing year. Percy had the heart of an artist, but was trapped behind a desk. From an early age, Jim realized that hard work alone did not guarantee a secure life. By the age of 8, he found comfort standing in front of a mirror, spending hours transforming his face into countless expressions that even made his siblings stop and watch in amazement. At the age of 10, he confidently wrote to Carol Burnett, declaring that he was a master impressionist. When he received her polite reply, it felt like a priceless treasure. He pinned the letter to his wall as a promise to himself. At school, he simply could not stop turning every class into a performance, constantly impersonating teachers and movie stars until he was repeatedly thrown out of class by the principal. The other children nicknamed him Rubber Face. For a boy growing up in poverty, those bursts of laughter were worth more than anything else. Then in 1975, everything fell apart when Titan Wheels suddenly shut down. Percy, then 51 years old, lost his job overnight. He mailed out 73 job applications to accounting firms across Ontario, only to receive rejection after rejection. The family's savings quickly disappeared, and Kathleen's medical expenses consumed what little money they had left. Eventually, Percy accepted a janitorial job paying just $4 an hour, cleaning bathrooms in the very kind of factory where he had once worked as an accountant. Jim was only 13 years old, forced to watch the man he admired most mopping floors for people who had once shaken his hand. The humiliation cut him to the core. Only a few months later, the family lost their home. From 1974 to 1976, the Carrey family lived in a yellow Volkswagen van parked near Lake Ontario. Percy and Kathleen slept inside the van, while Jim and his brother John pitched a tent beside it to endure Canada's bitterly cold winter nights. Every morning, they woke up with frost covering their sleeping bags before washing up at a gas station on their way to school. Sometimes Jim would retrieve expired sandwiches from the trash and heat them on a small stove inside the van. The entire family worked the night shift at a local factory, earning $32 for 8 hours of scrubbing floors and cleaning bathrooms. During the day, Jim still attended Aldershot High School in a half-awake daze, wearing dirty clothes and struggling to keep his exhausted mind focused. By the time he was 15, his mother's illness had worsened to the point where she could no longer walk on her own. Jim began missing school, and when he turned 16, he dropped out to work full-time alongside his father, earning $4.25 an hour. Every night, he worked as a janitor. At dawn, he returned home to help his mother out of bed, bathe her, prepare meals for her, and sit beside her telling jokes to lift her spirits. Those jokes were what kept him sane. Kathleen called her son her little sunshine. But deep inside, Jim lived in constant fear. That life continued for 2 years until 1980, when one fateful morning changed everything. In 1982, Jim found his father unconscious in the bathroom. Percy had swallowed an entire bottle of pills. Jim was only 20 years old. Panicking, he called emergency services as paramedics rushed his father to Joseph Brandt Hospital. They managed to save his life in time. Percy later admitted that he had attempted to take his own life 2 other times while the family had been living in the Volkswagen van. The trauma stayed with Jim for the rest of his life, leaving him terrified that the same darkness existed within himself. It became the reason he never stopped working and why he never allowed himself to slow down. Yet even in the midst of all that pain, there was still a quiet voice urging him to keep going. At the age of 15, Percy drove Jim to Toronto's Yuck Yucks Comedy Club for his very first performance. His mother picked out a bright polyester tracksuit for him because she believed that television comedians all dressed that way. The performance was a complete disaster. The audience barely applauded. Although disappointed, Percy quietly drove his son home, secretly proud of him. Jim realized that failing on stage was not the end. It was simply a lesson that would help him grow. On his 16th birthday, he officially left school. His family remained trapped in poverty, with everyone working night shifts or janitorial jobs just to survive. Jim worked 12-hour nights, squeezing in naps in the car between shifts while dreaming of stage lights and roaring applause. During his breaks, he secretly practiced comedy, imitating Don Adams and W.C. Fields to keep himself mentally alert. Once an outstanding student, Jim gradually became withdrawn and filled with anger. But comedy gave him a reason to keep living. His family continued to fall apart under the crushing weight of poverty. One by one, his siblings moved away. His father sank deeper into depression, while his mother became so dependent on painkillers that she developed an addiction. Years later, Jim said, "If you have to live on painkillers, you've already surrendered." He often sat at the dinner table listening to his mother say things like, "My brain is deteriorating at a terrifying rate," or "I could leave at any moment." Those words became permanently etched into his mind. He learned to use laughter as a suit of armor, hiding his pain behind an outwardly ridiculous persona. By the age of 17, he finally earned $20 for a 20-minute performance at the Haft Comedy Club. Although it was not much money, it proved that he could make a living by telling jokes. Soon afterward, he auditioned for Saturday Night Live in 1980, convinced that he would succeed. Instead, he never even got the chance to meet Lorne Michaels. The producers rejected him, saying, "I don't think Lorne would like that." The disappointment haunted him for years. But it also pushed him to stop imitating other people and begin creating characters of his own. Behind his sense of humor were wounds no one could see. He had been bullied at school because he was poor, mocked for the clothes he wore, and at times became so desperate that he deliberately hurt himself just to feel something real. Many years later, he recounted those moments in a documentary featuring such raw and authentic footage that the producers kept it hidden for nearly 20 years. His pain became the driving force behind his art. Every exaggerated expression and every explosive movement originated from a little boy who had learned to survive by making other people laugh. Even amid all that chaos, small rays of hope remained. Some teachers at Aldershot High School occasionally allowed him to perform in class instead of punishing him. One of his art teachers even remembered Jim drawing while impersonating John Wayne at the very same time. In 1981, At just 19 years old, Jim Carrey landed his first television role in a small Canadian film titled Introducing Janet, which was later renamed Rubberface. He played Tony, a struggling comedian trying to make a living, a character that closely mirrored his own life. Although the role did not bring him fame, it marked the beginning of his career. That same year, his life also took a new turn. With only $200 in his pocket, Jim left Toronto for Los Angeles. He slept on couches at comedy clubs, survived on free meals, and attended every audition he could find. By 1982, he was performing at the Comedy Store, the legendary venue that had launched comedians such as Richard Pryor and Robin Williams. One night, Rodney Dangerfield saw his performance, was impressed by his talent, and invited him to join his tour from 1982 to 1983. As the youngest member of the touring group, Jim opened shows in front of thousands of people while still struggling to find enough food each day. Hunger had never disappeared. It simply had a clear purpose now. He then began landing small television roles with modest pay, but every opportunity was invaluable. In 1983, he earned only $50 a week performing comedy sketches on the Sex and Violence Family Hour. He lived in an empty apartment with no furniture and survived on instant noodles. In 1984, Jim appeared in the sitcom The Duck Factory, which revolved around an animation studio. But the show was canceled after just 13 episodes, leaving him buried in debt once again. Even so, he refused to give up. In 1985, he achieved his first commercial success with Once Bitten, a film that grossed $19 million on a budget of only $1.5 million. Although critics were unimpressed, the movie caught the public's attention. The young man from Ontario with the remarkably expressive face suddenly became a recognizable name. Yet during that same period, his life took another unexpected turn. He was arrested for marijuana possession, had a brief romance with Mia Farrow, and became increasingly dependent on cocaine so he could rehearse through the night. Jim later described it as one of the darkest periods of his life. Even so, he kept moving forward, persevering through one audition and one rejection after another. He auditioned for Saturday Night Live 3 times, in 1980, 1983, and 1986, but failed each time. His final audition ended unsuccessfully after an imitation of Robin Williams failed to land as he had hoped. Instead of giving up, he decided to reinvent himself. Jim began creating bizarre, exaggerated characters that no one else dared to attempt. One of them was Fire Marshal Bill, the eccentric firefighter who would become the breakthrough character of his career. Those repeated setbacks shaped him into an entirely different person. In 1990, at the age of 28, Jim Carrey joined In Living Color, Fox's groundbreaking sketch comedy show known for constantly pushing boundaries. From his very first appearance, his explosive energy stood out from everyone else's. Over the course of the show's 5 seasons, Jim appeared in more than 120 sketches. However, Fire Marshal Bill became the character audiences remembered most, with his grotesquely twisted face, wild eyes, and signature line, "You can call me Bill." He made viewers laugh while sending chills down their spines. The show quickly attracted millions of viewers, and Jim's sketches consistently became the most talked about segments. It was also the first time a white comedian became a breakout star on a show built around the talents of black comedy legends such as the Wayans brothers. Jim Carrey not only fit in, he shined brilliantly. Behind the scenes, however, he worked himself to the point of exhaustion. Jim transformed into a wide range of characters, including Vera DeMilo, the bizarre female bodybuilder, along with countless other impersonations. He repeatedly gained or lost as much as 20 pounds in a single week. His body became a performance tool as he slapped himself across the face, twisted himself into painfully contorted positions, and smashed objects simply to make people laugh. Critics began talking about his Emmy potential, even as his body steadily deteriorated. During the filming of one scene in 1992, Jim severely sprained his ankle while dancing, but continued shooting in agony for the rest of the week. Even then, he refused to quit. At the time, he was earning $25,000 per episode and had just purchased his first home in Los Angeles. To sustain an exhausting workload of up to 80 hours a week, he began relying on Adderall. The drug kept him awake, but at the same time, it was quietly destroying him from within. Around the same time, Jim's marriage also began to fall apart. He met Melissa Weimer in 1987 on the set of The Duck Factory. She had known him long before he became famous. But after the success of In Living Color, everything changed. Fame consumed their lives, bringing late nights, strip clubs, and lies. In 1995, Melissa filed for divorce, alleging that he had been unfaithful with strippers and was no longer the man she had once known. The court documents laid the entire story bare. Success had come too quickly, while balance gradually disappeared from his life. As audiences laughed hysterically, Jim's marriage quietly crumbled behind the scenes. Even the show itself faced mounting controversy. During the 1992 to 1993 seasons, several sketches pushed boundaries so far that Fox executives became increasingly concerned. One segment, titled Homeboys, which satirized gang culture, attracted more than 10 million viewers, but also sparked a flood of complaints. Network executives began clashing with the creative team over what content should be allowed on the air. Jim, meanwhile, showed no restraint, repeatedly satirizing everything from race to religion. After years of dedication, he left the show in 1994, not because he was exhausted, but because he was ready to reach an even greater stage. That same year, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, was released. No one believed that a low-budget comedy about a detective specializing in missing pets could permanently change the comedy genre. Made for just $15 million, the film earned $72 million at the US box office and another $17 million internationally. Roughly 40% of Jim's dialogue was improvised. He didn't simply play the character, he completely became him. The line, "Alrighty then," quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Almost overnight, millions of children began repeating the catchphrase. The studios that had once laughed at Jim were now flooding him with contracts. The film transformed him from an eccentric television comedian into a major box office star. During his audition, he did not even read from the script. Instead, he continuously impersonated voices such as Ray Charles and Tony Bennett. Those performances, which looked meaningless on paper, proved irresistible in the audition room. Jim beat out 19 other candidates to win the role. Sean Young was originally cast as the female lead, but after conflicts with Jim and the director, she was replaced by Courtney Cox. From that point on, the film was gradually reshaped to fit Jim's uniquely outrageous style. He constantly invented new bits in the middle of filming. On one occasion, he unexpectedly yanked a female actress's arm as he walked past her, just to see what would happen. And the moment was ultimately left in the final cut. No one minded if the cast and crew laughed so hard that filming had to stop, or if a single scene required 20 takes. Jim constantly created new material right on the set. He did not merely portray Ace Ventura, he truly lived as the character. He stopped bathing, slept in the apartment built for the character, and dyed his hair to fully immerse himself in the role. The line between Jim and Ace became increasingly blurred. During the apartment break-in scene, he improvised so extensively that the crew had to rebuild the set over and over again. No one could control Jim, but no one wanted to, because the box office results spoke for themselves. The price, however, kept growing. For Ace Ventura, he earned a salary of $350,000. After the film's success, that figure jumped to $7 million for Dumb and Dumber, and then to $20 million for The Cable Guy. Yet the more money he earned, the more his mental well-being deteriorated. While promoting Dumb and Dumber, Jim suffered a mental breakdown. He experienced hallucinations and admitted that he had used cocaine to keep himself awake. He compared himself to a clown with bipolar disorder. He felt as though he was constantly wearing a mask. Not the familiar green mask seen on screen, but the mask of someone pretending to be happy while falling apart inside. The film's merchandise was also a tremendous success. More than 1 million Ace Ventura dolls sold out almost immediately, while lunchboxes, t-shirts, toys, and countless other products featuring the character flooded the market. Yet Jim felt no joy. In 1995, he sued Warner Brothers, seeking $20 million in damages, claiming that the studio had used his likeness in video games without his permission. Jim had become the world's biggest comedy star, yet he no longer felt capable of controlling even his own smile. The lawsuit became an important milestone in the legal protection of celebrities' publicity rights. But for Jim, it was also deeply personal. Afterward, Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls was produced. For the sequel, he demanded a $15 million salary, plus a percentage of the film's profits, making it one of the highest paychecks ever awarded to a comedy actor. The film grossed $212 million worldwide. Yet the script left Jim Carrey feeling conflicted. He disagreed with jokes involving animal abuse and scenes he considered distasteful. Throughout filming, he repeatedly tried to change them, argued with the writers, and improvised more acceptable lines. But some of those scenes remained in the finished film. After its release, many activists criticized the movie, arguing that it mocked animals regarded as sacred. Jim continued making audiences laugh, but inwardly he struggled with what the film had ultimately become. That same year, The Mask became a box office sensation. Made on a budget of $18 million, the film grossed $352 million worldwide, making it the fourth highest grossing film of 1994. The iconic green mask was more than just makeup. It was brought to life through CGI, created by industrial light and magic. More than 200 shots featured visual effects, while Jim spent up to 12 hours a day wearing the prosthetic makeup. There were days when the makeup process lasted so long that it left his skin burned. But every sacrifice paid off. The film received an Academy Award nomination for Best Visual Effects. Although it lost to Forrest Gump, Jim achieved a victory of his own. He helped revive the swing music craze, launched Cameron Diaz to stardom, and once again proved that he could carry a colorful, wildly chaotic blockbuster on his own. Dumb and Dumber was just as successful. Produced on a budget of $17 million, the film earned $270 million worldwide and became a beloved comedy classic. Jim personally wrote about 30% of Lloyd's dialogue. The line, "We got no food, we got no jobs," was completely improvised. The atmosphere on set was constantly lively. One scene was so noisy that it forced a real wedding nearby to be delayed. Jim performed a dangerous skiing stunt himself, fractured his ankle, yet continued filming while limping and bleeding without missing a single line. Jeff Daniels also nearly froze to a ski lift pole, forcing the crew to rescue him with warm water. But money could not shield Jim from other troubles. In 1994, Fox sued him for $10 million over royalty payments related to In Living Color. The dispute was ultimately settled out of court. That same year, The film industry paid him approximately $20 million. At the MTV Awards, Jim suddenly collapsed on stage and quietly said that he needed a break. He had fallen into a state of exhaustion and paranoia. While the audience continued cheering, he admitted backstage that he no longer had the strength to keep pretending. Jim Carrey was still making the world laugh, but deep inside he was running out of energy. While filming the storm sequence aboard the boat in The Truman Show, the pressure was completely real. Director Peter Weir was satisfied only when Jim had been pushed to his absolute physical and emotional limits. The storm scene alone required 150 takes. The production built an enormous artificial ocean with a realistic storm-generating system and a water tank as large as a football field. Wave after wave crashed into Jim as he clung to the boat with a safety harness, making the experience feel like a genuine disaster. At one point, the scene became so dangerous that he nearly drowned, forcing crew members to jump into the water and rescue him immediately. Yet when filming the moment Truman touched the wall and stepped out of his artificial world, the crew needed only a single take. That scene later became one of the most unforgettable moments in cinema history. Produced on a budget of $60 million, the film grossed $264 million worldwide. Jim's performance was so powerful that audiences no longer laughed. They simply watched in silence. He did not merely act inside that enormous dome. He truly lived as Truman. For weeks, Jim refused to leave the set so he could fully experience the loneliness and isolation that defined the character. He did not call his family and barely spoke to anyone outside the production. That isolation made the emotional scenes more authentic, but it also created growing tension. Jim began arguing with Peter Weir over creative control of certain scenes, and even requested a $20 million bonus if he won a Golden Globe Award. In the end, he won Best Actor. Yet even with the trophy in his hands, the fractures behind the scenes could not be repaired. The Truman Show completely changed the public's perception of Jim Carrey. He was no longer seen merely as a comedian who made people laugh, but as a serious, dramatic actor with profound messages to share. When he took on Man on the Moon, Jim did not simply portray Andy Kaufman, he completely became him. He lost around 40 pounds, nearly 18 kilograms, and spent countless hours studying footage of Kaufman until every gesture and mannerism became part of him. Even after the cameras stopped rolling, Jim remained in character. He behaved like Andy Kaufman during meetings, rehearsals, and everyday activities. Danny DeVito reportedly had to step away at one point simply to regain his composure. In one of the film's final scenes, Jim even injected himself with a saline solution to simulate the physical effects of cancer so that the pain would appear more authentic. And he achieved exactly what he was aiming for. The film earned $50 million and brought Jim his second Golden Globe Award. Yet behind that victory came another divorce. He and Lauren Holly separated after just 1 year of marriage. Jim admitted that he no longer felt capable of emotionally connecting with other people. A documentary released years later revealed just how deeply he had immersed himself in Andy Kaufman's psyche. It was no longer simply acting. It had become the gradual erosion of his own identity. In Batman Forever, Jim infused the Riddler with explosive energy and used an array of specially designed props. He personally prepared 20 different canes, each with its own unique design. The film grossed $336 million worldwide and became a major commercial success. But behind the spotlight, Jim was steadily falling apart. Waves of anxiety overwhelmed him, forcing him to rely on Valium to stay calm. His private battle with life's struggles was also beginning to become known to the public. On the set of Batman Forever, Tommy Lee Jones could not stand Jim Carrey's behavior, and the two frequently clashed. Around that time, signs of Jim's substance abuse also began to surface. What audiences saw on screen was laughter and comedy, but behind the scenes, his life was in turmoil. Liar Liar was released soon afterward and grossed $300 million worldwide, thanks in large part to Jim's improvisation of nearly 60% of his dialogue. The courtroom scenes unfolded naturally, energetically, and with remarkable intensity. 3 years later, however, Jim sued Universal, alleging that the studio still owed him a $2 million bonus. The lawsuit quickly escalated when he accused the company of withholding royalty payments. Although the case was eventually settled out of court, the damage had already been done. The film remained beloved by audiences, but behind its success lay a lasting scar. Things became even more difficult during The Cable Guy. The film earned $102 million, but the production was plagued with problems. Jim immersed himself so deeply in the role of Chip Douglas that he reportedly put real-life pressure on Matthew Broderick. At one point, Broderick reportedly said, "I don't even know how to react anymore." After one long day of filming unpredictable scenes, both actors ended up covered in mud. Broderick reportedly suffered a torn cornea. On some days, he had to wait as long as 14 hours in his trailer because the shooting schedule kept falling behind. The film had originally been conceived as a dark comedy, but ultimately became a controversial experiment that pushed boundaries to the extreme. When Jim later transformed into the Grinch, that experience was no easier. The film grossed $345 million worldwide, but every day he spent 2.5 hours in makeup, describing the experience as feeling like being buried alive. The heavy layers of prosthetics made it difficult for him to breathe, and he could barely move without sweating heavily or requiring constant touch-ups. Jim repeatedly requested additional takes, insisting that every detail be perfect. The makeup team eventually won an Academy Award, but Jim paid the price with chronic back pain and months of exhaustion. The success was enormous, but the physical toll was permanently etched into his body. In 2015, tragedy struck. Catriona White, an Irish makeup artist and Jim's on-again, off-again girlfriend, died from a drug overdose. She left behind a suicide note that accused him of emotional abuse and of providing her with drugs. Catriona's family later filed a lawsuit alleging that Jim had transmitted a sexually transmitted disease to her, supplied her with prescription painkillers, and ended their relationship at the moment she was most emotionally vulnerable. The case sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Investigators reportedly discovered several missing prescription bottles, along with text messages suggesting that Jim had at least some prior awareness of aspects of the situation. His legal team maintained that the allegations amounted to an attempt at extortion. In 2018, the lawsuit was dismissed, but the controversy surrounding the case has never fully faded. In Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Jim presented an entirely different side of himself. Gone were the exaggerated expressions and over-the-top comedy. Instead, he delivered a quiet, deeply moving performance. Director Michel Gondry reportedly did not even call out action. He simply wanted Jim to immerse himself completely in each moment. And Jim did exactly that. The film grossed $72 million, but production was extremely demanding, with workdays stretching to 17 hours and almost no backup plans when problems arose. Jim shaved his head for one scene. He later admitted that the experience left him depressed. The more authentic his performance became, the greater the emotional wounds he carried away from it. It took him months to recover, and his personal life also suffered greatly. In 2012, his daughter Jane was diagnosed with autism. By 2018, she had reportedly grown distant from her father and publicly criticized views of his that she considered harmful. Jim often spoke about his father, Percy, who lost his job when Jim was still a child. The family had fallen into poverty and survived by working as factory cleaners. Percy passed away in 2006. Jim spent $10 million on his father's funeral. He once said it had brought his life full circle. From the days when the family lived in a camper van to the day he could lay his father to rest like a king. Although he hinted at retirement in 2018, Jim returned to the screen in 2020 with Sonic the Hedgehog, which grossed $319 million worldwide. He joked that he came back only for the money, saying, "I bought a lot of stuff." But it was not entirely a joke. Jim reportedly earned $30 million for returning in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. To persuade him to join the project, the filmmakers allegedly even printed the screenplay in 24-karat gold ink. Jim said that magic had brought him back and that he had never truly left filmmaking. In 2014, Dumb and Dumber surprised many people by earning $166 million worldwide, despite receiving overwhelmingly negative reviews from critics. Jim earned $30 million to reprise the role of Lloyd. The film had nearly been canceled after he left the project in 2012. But he later returned because Jeff Daniels reportedly said he would not participate without him. The screenplay was completed in just 3 weeks. Even so, Jim publicly criticized the movie, saying that the script was too shallow. Later, the production company became embroiled in the Malaysian 1MDB financial scandal and ultimately agreed to a $60 million settlement. Even so, the film performed reasonably well at the box office. By 2022, Jim's depression had returned. He described it as a lingering sense of despair that never seemed to go away. Since the 1980s, Prozac had been his emotional lifeline. In 2017, while filming Sonic the Hedgehog 2, he nearly died from pneumonia. The experience forced him to stop and reassess his life. He ultimately decided to stop taking medication, saying that he would rather endure the pain than live in a state where he could no longer feel anything. Afterward, Jim became more open about discussing psychotherapy and his own healing journey. This affected the production schedule of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. But it also reminded everyone that, before anything else, he was simply a human being. Looking back to 2007, the number 23 failed to meet expectations, earning only $37 million. Yet the film haunted Jim more than any of his blockbuster successes. He became obsessed with the number 23, seeing it everywhere, in road signs, telephone numbers, and even on clocks. He could not escape the feeling and eventually began studying and writing about numerology. After completing the film, Jim sought psychotherapy to learn how to distinguish fiction from reality. He stated that he would no longer accept roles that were that dark. When he appeared as Colonel Stars in Kick-Ass 2, he withdrew from all promotional activities following the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. Jim explained that he could not support a film containing so much violence. His silence became his strongest statement. The film grossed $60 million, but Jim's decision ultimately had a greater impact than the movie itself. In 2024, he returned for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Every morning, he spent more than 3 hours having the character's mustache applied. Another $30 million contract was signed. Jim joked that he returned because he needed the money after buying too many houses. The story that the director sent him a screenplay printed in gold ink was, according to this account, entirely true. Jim admitted that gestures like that made him feel truly alive. For him, it was about more than money. It felt like a kind of miracle. In 2017, he drew worldwide attention with a viral interview during Fashion Week in which he declared, "There is no ego." He was not trying to sound philosophical. he genuinely believed what he was saying. After years of studying Eckhart Tolle's teachings and practicing meditation, he felt that he was no longer a separate individual, but simply part of the whole of existence. Jim believed that peace does not come from personality or fame, but from letting go. That same year, he also began creating hundreds of paintings inspired by what he called the Christ consciousness. Speaking at Homeboy Industries in 2015, he told people with histories of incarceration that forgiveness is the gateway to heaven. He said, "Jesus endured not only physical pain, but emotional suffering as well, yet he still chose forgiveness." Jim believed that this was also the foundation of his art. He felt that he was no longer merely an actor, but someone on a journey to discover the meaning of life. By 2025, the combined worldwide box office revenue of Jim Carrey's films had surpassed $1 billion. He had won 2 Golden Globe Awards, but had never received an Academy Award. Jim once said, "Everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see that it's not the answer." Jim's greatest year of success remained 1994, when Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber all became major hits within the same period. Yet his heart was always searching for something else. What Jim truly believed in and ultimately pursued was peace.